Mending and Mending. Today is a very special day with a very special guest, Nadine Pillay. Nadine is a wellness counselor as well as the founder of Holistic Options for People Empowerment that's based in Freight. Nadine and I think first met when we were 22, 23?
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time ago. So, old colleagues, old friends, and we're excited to connect today with you for us to talk about a very powerful topic. And today, Nadine's going to be sharing her journey of admitting that she's a single parent, became a teen mom at the age of 19. So, Nadine, let's dive straight into it and tell me a bit about that time and what life looked like at the age of 19 with a baby girl.
Hi, friend. Thanks so much for giving me this space to talk about my experiences. When I think about it, the age my daughter is now was the age that I actually had her. And that's a really scary thought. I had just started my second year at varsity
Okay.
when I found out I was pregnant with Alessia. It was a very uncertain time for me. It was scary. It was a time where I didn't know what the future held. But the one thing I did know, I really thought about this, and I cannot ever remember being scared to become a mother. Everything else that was happening in my life at that point in time, that was the scary part, having to deal with my family, having to deal with the community. That was scary for me. And I thought to myself, how am I going to do it? How am I going to get through this? I was still studying. You have this vision of the future.
Yeah.
And now things have changed, and you've got to kind of readjust yourself to that.
So I know part of your story is coming from a conservative Catholic home. Talk me through belief systems and how that played out. Because when we've had a pre-chat, you also spoke about the belief system of wanting to have the family picture. How did all of that play out for you?
It was central to my journey, I would say, because yes, I came from a very staunch Catholic background. I came from a very tight-knit family. My dad was very overprotective. I was the firstborn, so you can imagine the expectations. I was a high achiever at school. So besides the expectations of your family, you have your expectations of your community, of your friends, of all the people that know you. And I remember, thinking that I'm supposed to be married. I'm supposed to have a husband and a house in order to have a child and raise a child and be called a family. So I find that was one of the belief systems in terms of what the traditional family or the conventional family, if you want to call it, should look like. And so I had this picture stuck in my head for many years. And I felt that it was one of, the factors that kept me stuck in not admitting to myself that actually I am a single parent, because to admit that to myself was to kind of say to myself, you're alone on this journey. You're not fitting into the box of what society expects of you. And you need to fix this. So that process of you need to fix this the whole time kind of gets you stuck in a rut and keeps you from true acceptance of what a situation is. Alessia, Alessia's father, I loved him. We had a beautiful relationship. And so this was the person I wanted to spend my life with. And this is the person I wanted to raise a family with. And things don't always work out the way you want to. But sometimes we kind of force it because of the way things have always been done, and the way we're supposed to do it, and then find ourselves resentful because things are just not moving the way they're supposed to.
I loved when you spoke about being stuck, because that is where so many of us found ourselves in so many different situations where we can't see the future. We can't see what tomorrow is going to look like because we're so consumed with the anxiety, the stress, the current situation. And you've shared so much of your journey with me in terms of just this relationship, holding on to the ideal. I know you had said the idea was to get married, the idea was to be that family, and about going into that space of, but this isn't what my life looks like. And it might not look like that tomorrow either. And where do I accept that? What was your journey to becoming unstuck? What was that moment in time where you realized, I'm a single mom, that's okay, and I'm going to rock this?
Well, I think you know me better than anyone. I'm that person that if it's not working, if plan A is not working, we're going to go to plan B, there's plan C, there's plan D. And I remember actually reading something very interesting, and it said, you don't have to give up on your dreams. You have to just reframe them and change your perspective and change your angle of how you view your dream. And so for me, I think as Alessia got older, and yes, there were promises of marriage, and that kept me going. It was like my fuel, and so as she got older, I realized, hey, I'm the one making all the tough decisions here. I'm the one that has to deal with everything. And I absolutely wanted Alessia to have a healthy and beautiful relationship with her father, whether we were married or not. I wanted her to feel that love of a family unit of mother and father. But I realized that there are things that two parents should be doing together that was not happening. And I realized that we are moving further and further, and she's getting older and older. And I had to change the way I thought about this thing. And I had to accept that being a single parent doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean that I failed at something, that I failed at a relationship, or I failed at being a good mother. I had to accept that it does not make me weak at all. It makes me strong to be able to accept and to carry on, because we can't stop.
Yeah. And I think, again, so many people get stuck in that inner voice, that inner critic of, how am I going to do this by myself? I'm not supposed to do this on my own. The world doesn't dictate that I should do this on my own. And you can get so caught up in that negative belief system. And it's not a healthy space to be in. I understand there's a place for it, right? We need to go through those emotions. We need to,
It's not a healthy space to be in.
we need to 100%, and we need to feel it. But I think the growth and the step we need to take forward is to, again, become unstuck and feel what you need to feel, understand what that is, and take that next step forward. And what I'm hearing from you is there was that defining moment of, my daughter's getting older, I'm making these hard decisions, and I'm going to embrace who I am as a mom. Part of our previous conversations, you made such a beautiful comment, and I want us to unpack that, about overcompensating, because I see that in single parents. And I had such a beautiful conversation with my sister yesterday, and we were talking about the role of a mother and a father. And she said to me, she's a single parent at the moment, and she said to me, Chantal, when Caleb falls, I don't know, do I take on the mommy role of, oh, it's okay, my boy, don't worry? Or do I take on the daddy role of, come on, it's okay, shake it off, and off you go? And she said she tried to overcompensate by taking on the, don't worry, my boy, up you go, off, go, you're going to be okay. And she said, but I want to make sure he's okay. I want to go put the plaster on. I want to be the nurturer. And she's had that juggle of, am I going to be mommy in this moment? Am I going to be daddy in this moment? And that was profound for me in terms of how we step in to overcompensate for ourselves, because there's guilt wrapped into that,
Mm,
and how we overcompensate for our children. Can we talk about
right.
that?
I love talking about this because I hear this very often, and especially coming from single parents, and especially coming from single mothers, is that I'm a mother and a father. And I'm going to say something that might, touch a few nerves here, but we could never be a mother and a father. God gave us a unique role uh, as a mother and as a father. And so, therefore, we cannot blend those roles. Okay. If you are a single mother, you are a single mother and you are enough as a parent as you are. If you're a single dad, you are enough as a single dad as you are. And we should not try to be both, because we actually cannot be both, because the roles are so unique, and because the roles are so necessary and important for the development of a child. And I guess this is where it comes in that we want to be able to move towards a space where co-parenting can happen in a healthy way, because we are both so important as we are in our child's life. And so this is what happens in terms of overcompensating, is that we feel so guilty
Yeah.
that the other parent is not there, even in that moment, whatever that moment is that you're sharing with your child. You wish they could be there to witness it.
Yes.
And we become also angry, we become resentful, we become bitter, we become all these things in a small moment, or where your kid is riding a bike. You can feel all those emotions. And then we start to overcompensate with our children. We start to parent with guilt, and that is absolutely toxic for our relationship and bond that we are building with our children. And so we have to be able, as single parents, to take a step back from that, and actually say, what would I do? Not what would the other person do? What would I do in this situation? I am here right now. I need to make this decision. I have to respond. I have to react. What would I do? And to be able to trust ourselves enough to do that.
So you've touched on, for me, a point of control, because I think we get so wrapped up in what I can control, what I can't control, what's potentially happening in the other home, right? So when your daughter's going off to see her father, you don't have
Yes.
control over what's happening in that space and in that time.
Yes.
And that's a hard space to be in as a mom, especially if you're an A-type mom. And I say mom, but a parent, needing to step into a space where you have to be comfortable with the fact that
Right.
you're not going to have control over all the emotions, over all the different situations, but embracing the moments, like you're saying, where I am here, I can lean into this moment, I can give my feedback, I can embrace this memory, and that's okay for today, in this moment, right now.
Right. Giselle, I'm going
So,
to be honest with you. I
yeah.
couldn't wait for Alessia to turn 18, because then she could make those decisions. She could make those decisions, because I found it so difficult to share my child. I found it so difficult to let her go, and I would be at home a nervous wreck. And so, a lot of this comes down to trust, and trusting the other parent, and trusting God, because you would just be praying that your child is okay, and that when they come back to you, they're going to be okay. And I don't even want to start talking about how it affects routine and
100%.
discipline and all those type of things. But I remember saying, I don't want to make this choice anymore, that I get of sending her off, and especially if a child is resisting, it becomes even more difficult. But there comes a time where you have to say to yourself, I cannot control everything. because it's driving me crazy. It's creating so much of anxiety that I have to let things flow as they are. And guess what? I'm going to have to pick up the pieces if I have to.
Oh, wow.
And that's not easy. That's not
Yeah.
easy to do.
It's almost about not having expectations. Because I think if we have expectations of how things should be or how they should roll out, and those
Yeah.
expectations aren't met, we go into the absolute spiral. We jump on the phone. What's going on? Why did this happen? And it's about finding your own groove between the two homes, and again, embracing what you can and what you cannot control.
Yeah.
In terms of your daughter's lens, and I would love to have Alessia on the podcast one day, but what would you say was her experience being raised by a single mom who's the mom who's standing next to the hockey field, the mom who's there quizzing her for her tests, her mom is there who is giving her the tissues when there's been a breakup? What's that been, do you think, for her?
I think for Alessia, I remember when I changed schools. She was in about grade 4, and I changed schools, and she went to a much smaller private school, and the community was different. We had kids that were from a farming community who lived with mom and dad, and had sort of a pretty picture, of what we think it's a pretty picture. And they couldn't understand. They couldn't understand, and they would ask her questions. But I remember that one of the main issues for Alessia was that, why is my mother younger than all the other mothers? And we laugh about this
You
because
still
she's
look
like,
younger than all the other mothers.
why are you dressing like this? You should be dressing like that. So those were the type of things that she would question. But I think now, we had a conversation the other day, and she said to me that she didn't understand a lot of my choices, and she didn't understand a lot of the reasons of why life was the way it was. And she just said to me that no matter what, she realized that I loved her. That was something she did not question, was the fact that I loved her.
Yeah, it's that role we play in our children's lives, right? And there's no manual. And sometimes we make decisions and we hope they understand the reasoning why one day. But if our children can feel safe in the relationship we create for them, that's 100% a pat on the back. Friend, tell me about a time, and you put this phrase in my head, becoming comfortable with uncomfortable emotions. If we had to think about the lens again from a single parent, what was that aha moment for you where you realized it's okay that I feel uncomfortable? It's okay that I'm stressed. It's okay that I'm overwhelmed. It's okay that I'm not handling this today. And to lean into that space, because that to me is vulnerability 101. That's Brene Brown through and through.
Right.
Get into a space where I can embrace this and I can move forward. Because again, people can be stuck. So what was that process for you?
So I'm going to take you back a bit, and I actually went to see a therapist because I decided that I needed to stop listening to myself so much, and I needed to actually just talk it out to someone else, and someone that doesn't know me, someone that doesn't know my family, and I came away from that session with one thing, is that you don't always have to get over things. You got to go through them. And I've taken that with me from that day on. And I realized that I was hanging on to happy moments so badly because I was so afraid of the moments when I was not happy. I didn't want to feel that emotion. And so that was making me stuck as well. And to stay in situations that did not serve me, to have belief systems that did not serve me. And so I tried to change my thinking. And so that was really an aha moment for me, that I need to be able to feel the pain if I need to feel the pain. I need to feel the hurt if I need to feel the hurt. I need to be able to say what I feel, even if people can't understand what I'm trying to say or accept what I'm trying to say. And then I realized that sitting in my emotions, sitting in my feelings for a little while, no matter how difficult it was. And I remember even this then became a real light bulb moment in terms of something I could even use in my work with people to help them through. And I called it the 3-day dip. And I would allow myself to be miserable for 3 days. And then I would say, that's it.
The 3-day dip. But I mean, there is so much in allowing yourself, so giving yourself permission to feel what you need to feel. I'm a believer of that. If I am upset about something, Tristan knows, just give me, so for me it's days, right? But just give me
Right.
time to feel what I need to feel. I
Yeah.
need to process this. I need to think about this. And why I
Yeah.
love what you're saying, and we need to market this 3-day dip because I think it's so cool and so relevant. That's a proper tool. Allow myself to feel what I need to feel, and then pull myself towards myself and move on.
Yes. Yes.
Learn what I need to learn from that emotion, though, because I think if we just push things underneath the rug, and we think,
Right.
okay, tomorrow is another day, that's absolutely going to come back and bite you. It's going to trigger you some way along the way. Sometimes we don't have the tools to deal with it right there in that moment. So if you need to park it and then go back to it later, I'm a believer of that too. But we need to feel what we need to feel.
Absolutely, because we store trauma in our bodies.
Yeah.
We store, in every cell that we have. And it's like it's an uninvited guest. It's an uninvited guest in our bodies, but it's there. So we can't ignore them. If someone comes to your doorstep, you can't ignore them. So we have to deal with them and then let them go. And I think that's the important thing, is to let them go. Like waves, emotions come through us and we should allow them to leave. Sometimes it's us. We have to accept that it's me that's holding it and not allowing. And it's about, I think this whole journey itself is about allowing, because it's about giving over control, which means allowing and giving permission to yourself to also to be sad, to be miserable, to not be the perfect parent all the time. We do a great disservice to our children by pretending that we don't have emotions. We
Pretending
do a
that
great
everything is
disservice to them by
okay.
pretending, yeah, that we're not angry, we're not sad, we don't cry, because we want to appear to be strong for them. And I've realized with my work with children is that actually that disturbs them, that mommy doesn't show any emotion, that mommy's always happy, that mommy's always got things together. So they want to see you be human, and it's okay, because at the end of the day, the child deserves a parent who is happy and healthy.
Can I shift the lens, right? So you've touched on the parent then. We've spent a lot of time talking about your journey, your daughter, what that process looks like, community, family. If I think about you as a woman, and you're a strong, independent woman, did you ever have a moment in terms of being a single parent and having this relationship that didn't work? Did you ever feel like, am I ever going to find love? Am I worthy of love? Because this isn't working and I just don't understand why. I'm giving it 120%. Because I find that often in relationships we throw ourselves into it. We give everything we can, every fiber of our being, and then it doesn't work. And you're like, what's wrong with me? Did you ever have a moment like that, especially in your single journey, where you just felt, am I enough? And am I ever going to be happy again?
Absolutely. We start to look, at everything that we're doing wrong. We start to turn the camera on ourselves, basically, and or the spotlight, should I say, and look at everything we're doing wrong, and sort of try to analyze, why don't I deserve the thing that I want? You know, why is it always a no, 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 no to me? And there must be something I'm doing. And I've had those moments. I've definitely had those moments, and it becomes so deep seated that we feel we're unacceptable. We're unacceptable to our partners. We're unacceptable to our children, which we sometimes even think, do they even like us? You know, and I've even had moments of really feeling, and I mean, pathetic about myself, thinking, I'm sure she'd want someone else to be her mom. I'm sure she'd want someone else, to be her dad. She'd rather have another family. I felt that I shortchanged her. I started taking on a lot of responsibility for why the situation was the way it was, until I came, through time and through growth, to come to look at a situation differently and realize that some situations are just the way they are because they're meant to be that way. Alessia and I were destined for each other. And so there was nothing that was going to stop us from being together. However this happened, I know that now. We were meant to be in each other's lives. And this is just the process of how we were meant to be in each other's
Yeah.
lives. And we got to take the good from it, and we've got to learn from the bad.
And I know people are going to think, oh, that's easier said than done, right? And I've been getting a lot of those comments lately, and it is easier said than done. But I think for me, the power is that there is healing in time. There is reflection in time. There's the power
Yes.
of hindsight, and you don't feel that way in that moment. And I get it. And again, feel that. But in a year's time, you're going to look back and think, wow, I actually shared with someone yesterday that I would never have been able to run this podcast and be as vulnerable as I am right now a year ago. I wasn't ready. I was breaking. I've really needed to put in the work to get to a space where I feel I'm stronger now and that I can have these hard conversations. Because it's not from a space of being malicious. It's not from a space of wanting to air our dirty laundry, right? And blame shift. It's from a space of, it was hard. This is what I went through. But from a space of relatedness, it's going to be okay. You can get through it. So I love you touching on that, because it's about us again pulling ourselves towards ourselves and saying, tomorrow is another day. I have my 3-day dip. I'm going to move forward. And if the 3-day dip comes back in again, it's okay. Tomorrow is another day. Nadine,
And
maybe
I've got
just in
myself
close.
down to 1 day now. So,
You're better than me. 100% better than me. Tristan wishes it was still 1 day. Maybe just in closing, friend, words of wisdom, just something that you feel you carry in your heart that you absolutely want to share with other single parents. That's a ray of hope that it is going to be okay.
parenting and raising another human is a very conscious process. And this is when all this talk of feelings and allowing our feelings and working with our feelings um, comes into play. And the one thing I realized that worked for me as a mother was that Alessia and I had a very open communication with each other, and that's how our connection grew. So we want to be able to connect with our children and not just communicate with them. We want to connect with them. And with that means honesty and living in our truth. And it's so difficult. It's so difficult to be vulnerable to your child because you are trying to be the parent. But that is a sign of being a strong parent, is being able to say, listen, this is what it is. To be able to answer the difficult questions that your child will ask you. and to be able to explain things, because children constantly have questions.
Yeah.
And we do not want to build fantasy for our children that is not uh, the, ideally the way we want them to be raised and to grow up, believing in a fantasy world, because then they too will become stuck in the belief systems we were trying to move away from. We want our children to be present in the world as it is today. We want to give them the coping mechanisms to deal with the world as it is today. I know as a parent, we kind of always gravitate back to when I was young. I even
Yes.
find myself saying that when I was a kid, we hated it when our parents did that to us. But it's not about when I was a kid, it's about when you were a kid. And it's about how they are growing now. And for single parents out there, do not be ashamed of your story. Your story is what makes you who you are. Whether it is a beautiful fairy tale or it is a horror story, it is what makes you. And when we accept our stories and we share our stories with our children as they grow, we build a connection with them, and that's the goal of it all.
I love talking to you. I always say, friend, that being in your company is soul food, and I'm so excited just to share the soul food with whoever's going to listen to this podcast and to this episode. So, thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for being so vulnerable, for sharing so many aha moments. I cannot wait to have you back on the show again.
Thank you so much, friend. This is really a sacred space that you have created, and such an honor to share this opportunity with you. And I can't wait to be back.
Awesome. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.